The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to a very special March Madness edition of K4Wins. K4, the number 4wins.com. Check out our website. It is absolutely free. You can subscribe to it. Let's go around the horn here. Kai Gregory's been doing this for 30 years, 35 years. He's been doing it since he was like 11 years old, playing games. He's been pitching quarters with kids on playgrounds since he was like 12.
Taking their money.
Yeah. Taking their money. He's been doing it for years. Fantastic guy. Of course, we got Kip Keefer right below me. He's the executive director of the Birmingham Racecourse Casino, which congratulations to the recent sale. And everything seems to be going very, very well there. And also Case Keefer, his son, yes, with the same last name. Kind of stands alone, though. He does a fantastic job with, of course, the wonderful Las Vegas Sun. He's executive director, the editor, whatever else titles I can put on him. We're going to get into this, and I'm super excited. We played 60 games so far. And before we jump into that real quick, Kai, how did we do last week?
27 and 14, 66%. Last month, 113 and 55. 67%. However, our year-to-date average did drop a little bit, 323 and 168 and 4. So our year-to-date average dropped to 65.7%, down from 66%.
If you're into Cinderellas, you have not been happy. For people who called me a big wuss for taking all 4 1 seeds into my Final Four bracket, people are like, oh, that's really going out on the limb. That is going out on an effing limb because it only happened one other time back in 2008. Thank you very much. And that was also at the Alamo Dome. So I did take all 4 seeds. By the way, Jay Billis and I were like this. He also had all 4 win seeds. I am in the top 2% of ESPN brackets, which I'm happy to say. I can't pick crap against the spread recently, but as far as just picking straight out, and I wanted to bring this up in case I think you probably know about this, $1 million March Madness wager was set up between a pro gambler, his name is Sean Perry, and ChatGPT at the beginning of this whole thing, and it comes down to the Duke-Houston game. The Vegas bookie has Duke, and this is not against the spread. This is just winning the game outright for his bracket. He's got Duke. ChatGPT has Houston. Whoever wins that bet will win the $1 million bracket. But it's pretty amazing, too, because through the first 30 games, Perry's only missed 13 picks, and AI's only missed 10. So it just goes to show that human elements are just as good, if not better, than AI. First 60 games in the tournament, chalk all over the place. Chalk 48 and 12 straight up in games that are favored by 6 points or more. 31 and 0 straight up. That is only 32 and 28 against the spread. And now, of course, we have Duke 5.5, 135 against Houston. And, of course, the Auburn Tigers catching 2.5 against the Florida Gators, a team that already beat them earlier in the season when they were 11-point underdog. And, of course, that line's 2.5 and 159, a game that's dropped all the way from 164. Let's start with Case. What's going on out there in Las Vegas? We're getting ready for a huge March Madness going on today and actually on Saturday. And then, of course, on Monday, the national championship game. And everything just seems to be really, really tight right now.
Yeah, man, a lot to respond to. I guess first, since now you got me fired up in the morning, I didn't know about the story. Maybe it's true, but take everything you ever hear about Sean Perry with a grain of salt. I mean, we have a whole huge industry of scammers right now, but he's the master scammer of them all.
Okay,
yes, right. Anyone that knows anything will tell you that. I mean, hey, shout out to him. I guess if you're the best at anything, you want to be the best at marketing and stuff, but he kind of parlayed this one crazy run in Circa Survivor where I believe he didn't even end up winning into now I mean, kind of being a joke in anyone that knows what's going on. But I mean, clearly people are paying for a subscription and stuff, but the guy's not a winner no matter what he tells you. I probably put my reputation on that. So
I love it.
Be careful. Again, I hate this industry despite the fact that it's basically my livelihood. But yeah, and Sean Perry's bullet point number one. Yeah, I don't know beyond that NCAA tournament. I'm still not giving you a pass either for all the number 1 seeds. Sorry, Tony. I still even though you got it right. I did think if there was a year though, this is the year to do it. I couldn't quite bring myself to it. I'm also just bitter. So actually, congratulations to you because I had all 1 seeds except Texas Tech, so I'd be winning my big bracket pool, looking at a nice payout. I'd be the one in the top 0.02% or whatever. I had a big future on Texas Tech to win the region. Got cocky and didn't. I wouldn't say cocky. I don't typically like to arb or hedge unless I have to, and I really liked the matchup going into it. So I was like, I'm not going to bet any back on Florida. Maybe if Texas Tech gets up big, I can play some live plus money. Well, I mean, it couldn't have been better than being up 10 with 3 minutes to go or
Yeah.
whatever. And I was like, I'm not going to hedge this. They're not going to lose. They're a good free throw shooting team. They're just going to get fouled now, and they missed the front ends of those two one-on-ones and give up threes. Florida. I know a lot of you guys have been behind them. It's such a thorn in my side. My college basketball portfolio, I've got big future prices, at least relatively, on all three of the other teams in the Final Four. Florida's the one team I don't have. I'm going to try to stick it out one more round and pray that Auburn can beat them. I'm not going to bet more on them now. But this tournament's kind of it's been good. I'm definitely up, and I like the position having three of the teams. But Florida is just driving me crazy. I had UConn on the money line. Actually, still not sure UConn wasn't the better team in that game. And then the Texas Tech collapse is just one for the ages. I don't usually tilt about much, but this Florida run through the tournament's driving me crazy.
The Final Four teams, Duke, Houston, Florida, and Auburn. Florida has the best ATS left. They're all above 500, by the way. 27-11 against the spread are the Florida Gators. 27-11 over-unders. They've been flying over Duke, 25-13, Houston 2017-1, and Auburn 2016-1 against the spread. A man who's had his finger on the pulse of the SEC all year long. Maybe it's because we live here. Kip Kiefer. Kip, your thoughts on, of course, the SEC having to beat each other up and basically have had half the teams in the field pretty much from every single bracket rising. We've had the SEC well corresponded to exactly how many teams have been left in what's going on.
Yeah, you mentioned that it's been tough to wrangle in point spreads, but Case just mentioned the to what I thought was probably the best bet of the entire tournament. Connecticut, with all their DNA and two straight championships. Remember, in that Florida game was a 9.5 point underdog. It was the biggest slam dunk in the tournament. Florida wins by 2. It was right there down to the wire. So I mean, there have been some good opportunities in this thing. But yeah, I'm shocked that all 4 1 seats got there, and most of them have had some trauma, except for Duke, I guess. So it's been an interesting tournament, and I'm really intrigued with both of these Final Four matchups because, you've got Florida and Auburn, and I think you can't be overstated that when Florida went in and beat Auburn down in the Wiregrass of Alabama early in the year, that's when Auburn looked like they were just unassailable. They were just rolling right along. Florida went in there and beat them by 9 points. It was a game on K4 that I just had the feeling that weekend that Auburn had been on such a good roll, and Florida was the kind of team that could maybe upset the apple cart, but they were a big underdog that day and won outright. Mm-hmm. So that's the one head-to-head matchup. We've already seen it, but I wondered, a team like Auburn, and I think you guys will probably all agree with this. I mean, what's Johni Broom's condition? I mean, this guy, such a warrior, gets so banged up. Had the big injury at the end of the game last Sunday, where the way he reacted, and you guys tell me if you disagree, I think he believed he fractured his elbow on that fall, just the way he was reacting to it. And then to come back out like Willis Reed and run on the court and make a three and, to say, no, I'm back. This guy, everything goes through him. So I think the way he plays and the way having this week off is going to be just key for Auburn. I think Johni Broom's got to be as close to fully functional as possible to pull off this Florida game. And the Duke-Houston game, what a fantastic matchup. Both these teams have played at such a high level virtually all year. Houston got off to a little bit of a slow start, losing against Alabama and Auburn, coincidentally. But I think they've only lost one game in like their last 30. They've just been a well-oiled machine. And speaking of well-oiled machines, I am so impressed with what John Shire's done with this Duke team. They're the most disciplined precision team I've seen in a number of years. I'm going to be surprised if Duke doesn't cut down the nets on Monday. I just think they're playing at a different level than everybody else.
Duke is 11-3-1 their last 14 against the spread. Houston is 8-7-1 their last 16. So despite the fact they are winning everything else, they're not really covering spreads if you want to
Yeah,
look at that kind of thing.
they just win.
Yeah, they do. You bring up Janai Broom, and I got the opportunity to go up to Rupp and actually see him play. And again, just putting your eyeballs on a player and watching him the entire game as opposed to where the TV cameras are just tells you a different story. Something's wrong with him. I don't know what he is. He's not 100%. He's just not. And I was talking about, I couldn't believe he was player of the year. Every time you look up, he's going 18-17. He's 13. He's 13.
And now
20.
he's had a week off. So that could be huge.
And he has. The one thing I will say about Florida, though, is they're one of the best offensive rebounding teams in all of college basketball. They get more second, third shots than any other team I've ever seen. And Janai, of course, number 5 right now in total rebounding in all of college basketball. So if he's going to have a 16 or 17 rebounding game, which is slightly above his average of about 12 in order for the Auburn Tigers, I think, to win, just because I think Florida's so good at cleaning the glass. Kai, you've been all over this too, man, and it's just been amazing. I just hate the fact that it's going to be over in just about 72 hours. It just kind of bums me out. And obviously, a couple of games where the lines are extremely tight. But what's sticking out to you right now?
Don't forget about Caldwell. And he's a pretty good rebounder, pretty good defensive player. I think he defensively helps Auburn go probably more than Broom. I have been all over Broom all year as to being the biggest whiny baby. He's the LeBron James of college basketball, in my opinion. Fusses at refs up and down the court, but I got to give him props. That did look like a nasty injury. He rolled up his ankle. Then he had his elbow at the same time. He did. Yeah, I'm done. Blah blah blah. And then yes, he came back and extraordinary fashion to lead the team. I'll give him props for that. I'm not going to give him props for much of anything else. If I was his size and had that, okay. He's a great player. I just wish he would stop whining at the refs. Anyway, I'll move on. I still like Florida. I like Florida first half specifically. I like Duke in the first half. I think there's going to be about a 6, 7, 8 minute adjustment period because Duke's going to get hit in the mouth by Houston's physicality and their defense. Everybody thinks Houston did a great job defensively against Tennessee. No, they didn't. Tennessee stood around behind the three-point line, looked at each other for 25 seconds, and then went, oh, crap, we better move, and then jacked up a dumb shot all the way through the first half. And the second half came back and did some things, but we knew Tennessee was going to have a bad shooting game, and they chose that game so they could have an excuse and move on. I'm going to miss Ziegler. I'm going to miss Jermaine Mayshak big time, and so ball for life right there. There's my throw out, shout out to them. But I just don't see. I don't know. After that last game, there's part of me that wants to change my bets and take Auburn. I know what I just said, but there's part of me that wants to change and take them because of what happened in that game, because of the way he came back. I don't know. I'm not going to get off Duke. They're going to be able to go inside. They're going to be able to move the ball. I think the flag and inside way more than Tennessee was able to do, or any other team has been able to do against Houston. That's the one thing is if you can get your inside game going, get the ball inside the lane, which don't get me wrong, Houston's an incredible defense keeping the ball out of the lane. But if Duke gets the ball in the lane, then Duke's going to run away with this game, in my opinion.
Normally, we would take all of our thoughts and opinions on a particular ball game, and if two people disagree, we just throw the game off the board. Obviously, we're going to have plays up at K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com, free plays, and you can subscribe. So make sure you check out our site, K4Wins.com. Before we get into our solid plays here, I want to ask Case a question, this kind of came up last week, and I didn't get a chance to ask you about it. The money line, I played the money line the last couple of weeks because when I'm not hitting the spread, I'm thinking to myself, well, I'll just go ahead and put the extra juice out there and just hope like hell they win. And I hit both sides of the Final Four games this past week because I didn't have to play the spread, despite the fact the favorites came in at 4-0. Is the money line, is the correspondence of money line price supposed to be the same as the actual number of a game? In other words, is a -3.5 always the same money line price for that particular team? And if it's not, why? That's my first question.
No, it's not always going to be the same, but it always should be about in the same range. And the reason why it's not is because these games are a lot different. I mean, teams play at a lot different pace. I mean, I think the thing that As far as we've come and people understanding the game better, and I think like as far as sports knowledge, like we're progressing every year. I still think like the mainstream sports, we don't talk about just how different it is when there's a team that's playing 80 possessions a game and a team that's playing 56. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously you widen the number of trials. That's widens the variance. So that being said, you shouldn't see it totally thrown out of whack. And what I tell people to do, it's easy. I think you should just be able to Google it. But if you're looking and you're like, well, how does this money line should it correspond to the point spread? I mean, you can just type in like money line calculator or point spread converter into Google. I think make sure it's a reputable site. If it's selling picks, it's probably not reputable and it's probably not one you should trust. But if it's just one of these resource sites, you can type it in and see what it normally should be. And that's going to see where there's the splits. I'll say during the regular season, especially in college basketball, I don't think anything gets too out of whack. But I do think, these high profile games at the end, there's so much more money involved. And I gave an example last week on the show, actually. You didn't need to in the end, but I played Duke money line despite how high it was against Alabama, just because if you used any of those calculators, you would see that I think Duke, I played minus 230. They were like a 7.5 point favorite. I mean, you would see that should be almost a minus 300. But I think when there's so much more money, a lot of recreational money, a lot of people were just seeing what Alabama did the game before. And we're just like, well, I'll just take them on the money line. So then the sports books had a little bit of, or at least at the time I bet it, we're probably bracing for a little bit of exposure on Alabama winning outright. This is something you see in the NFL playoffs all the time. This is where it's most famous, where people will come in late the conference championship games in the Super Bowl, and if they like the underdog, just bet the money line. That's why you see these gigantic bets every year on the Super Bowl. Usually, or not actually, none came this year, but a lot of years you'll see like $3 million on the favorite on the money line, just because these guys know the math. They know what they're doing. So yeah, some of these bigger games, it's definitely worth seeing how the money line corresponds to the point spread. That being said, I don't really see anything totally out of whack in these two Final Four games. But I think Duke Alabama, which we talked about last week, was a great example. I thought Duke minus 230 on the money line. I get why people don't want to play it, but if you're a money line parlay guy, you can throw it in there. There was just clear value on that side.
Second part of this question, this can play with any sport. Obviously, what moves the lines is the money that's going on in one particular team. I've always wondered, like, for example, when you're doing futures, you'll see a baseball team at 81.5 minus 160. Why are there games, and you see this in NFL too? I'll see a game is be minus 2.5, minus $1.45. Why is there such high juice on particular lines when all they'd have to do is drop the line a half and go back to the 110?
Yeah, I think it probably comes down to bookmaker to bookmaker, and you'd have to ask them their particular philosophy. But a lot of the ones where you see if they're hesitant and they just add juices, they just don't want to get sided. I mean, the worst thing is if it's 8.5, you drop it to 8, then all of a sudden it lands 8, and then all your customers that know what they're doing, that's betting a lot of money, they all hit the under. And then you don't, and then if you take a bunch of over on the 8, you're just paying that back. So then you end up losing the game. So I mean, it really depends on the outfit and who's running it. I know a lot of these like big national sports books now that they will go to extreme lengths just to keep it on a half either way, to not have to not have a push either way. So it's just philosophy by philosophy. But yes, certainly. I mean, that's like books' worst case scenarios. Like they never want an NFL game where it's 3.5 and they take so much money they have to go to 2.5. Then it lands 3, and that's enough to ruin your day. Even though they're holding 10 cents out of every bet. If you have something like that, you're going to be paying everyone. Everyone that makes big bets is only going to take plus 3.5 or minus 2.5 and get the games in that situation. So they got to be kind of cautious with that.
We're going to be talking some MLB. My Cincinnati Reds did something last night that hasn't been done in 65 years.
It's impossible.
And it's only been done 6 times in the history of the game, and 4 of those times were over 100 years ago. And I've got them in a futures over in wins, and I'm just, if it comes down to those 3 games, I'm going to lose my shit. I've got news for you. Let's go to Kip. Kip, before we get into some MLB, tell me what you look like. You get the Final Four. We played an entire season, 60 games in the book. Give me some plays there, Kip.
Well, it's tough, but I'm going to stick by my resolve here. I think Auburn finds a way to win this game, so I'm going to take them in the first game. And as I said in the open, I don't know what the current number is on Duke, but as much. I picked Houston in my bracket to win the whole thing, but watching Duke and just the way they've dismantled everybody they've played, and just they don't make mistakes and beat themselves, and they make their free throws. Case mentioned Texas Tech clanking a couple down the stretch in that game. We've seen it for 50 years watching this tournament, that a lot of times it's as elementary as who makes that front end of a one-on-one or who makes both those free throws down the stretch. I don't. If Duke has missed a free throw this year, I need to see footage to prove it, because throughout this tournament, particularly Kadekel or whatever his name is, that guy is the most automatic free throw shooter I can remember in many, many years. I mean, he just slicks every one, doesn't even hit metal, and that kind of team in a tight game, really tough to beat. So I'm gonna stick with my guns and go with Auburn and Duke to win these games on Saturday and face off Monday night for the national championship. And I've shifted now away from thinking that Houston, which all they do is win. You mentioned the numbers; they're not flashy, they're not sexy, but they just win. But I just can't see them pulling off this game. So I'm going with the Tigers and the Dukes to be the two teams on Monday night. And ultimately, I think Duke walks away with the national championship.
Yeah, I know you like to Kyle loves to dissect games. He does first halves, all kinds of different things, and it's always giving you an opportunity to exercise your right to make even a little more cash with your man. What do you like,
And
Kyle?
even more bets.
Even more bets, Sam?
I think my best bet's going to be Duke first half. I'm also going to like Duke first half over their team total, and Duke team total over for the game. I'm staying away from Auburn, Florida. I will say I've already bet Florida first half, but I may come back and zero that out. I don't know. I haven't decided, but Duke first half and over their team total.
All right. Yeah, in my bracket, I've got Duke and Florida playing for the national title. I got Duke winning it all, and so there's no reason to change off my bracket now. But I am straying away from the money line, or actually getting on the money line as opposed to the actual line itself. And I think this is where we're seeing a lot of comparisons between the rest of us. And three of Duke's four losses this year, they failed to score 72 points. I think they get to that number this year. They're over under, and their team total is 40 or 71 right now against Houston. Again, we mentioned they have one of the best ATSs too at 25 and 13. What people don't realize is everyone keeps talking about Duke's offense against Houston's defense. No one's talking about Duke's defense. Duke is seventh overall in scoring defense in college hoops. So Houston's got a great defense, but Duke's defense is nothing to sneeze at. So you're telling me you get the number one offense and the number seven defense against a great defense? I think that's great. Houston has a problem getting to the line. They just don't get fouled very often. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because they don't go to the post. I don't know if they don't go in the paint enough, but they don't go to the line. They usually go to the line probably about 75% as many times as their opponents do. And when they do, there's only two guys in the squad that shoot over 80%. So if it gets down to a game where you're starting to foul, Houston, it reminds me of those on John Calipari Memphis squads. They're not going to make their free throws, and that bodes really raunchy there for a Houston squad that obviously is 20-17-1 against the spread and has won so many games, but that's why they're 8-7-1 their last 16. I like Duke, the team total over 71. I think they're going to have to get it 72 to win this game. And I love Duke and the money line in this game. I think, what is it, 160, 170? I think it's something like that. I'm not sure. Maybe more of that, minus 210, whatever the money line is for Duke. I think I'm thinking the other game. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the money out there and take Duke. And I think they're going to win the game outright. I think that 135.5 is a little high. So if I can middle a little bit, I'd take the Duke team total over 71, but I'd take the under 135.5 for 136 in hopes that I could hit both. But at the very least, I'm going to hit one side of that so I can break even on that. I'm thinking a 73-62 kind of ball game. And then when it comes down to Auburn and Florida, Florida's already shown they were 11-point dog. They went down there and beat Auburn by 9. That was earlier in the season. I know that was a long time ago. They've got the best ATS of the four teams at 27-11 going on. They get lots of second and third chances. The Florida Gators are playing lights out. I have to be careful here because I'm an Alabama guy. I made my living off of Alabama football and Alabama basketball all my life. We were the flagship station for Alabama football for 25 years. So I've always been hedging and not like an Auburn, though, when it comes down to the money. If they make me cash, I'm happy for them. But I still think something's wrong with Janiah Broome. And I think if they're going to be really physical with him, down in the post and down in the paint early in the game, I think by the end of the game, he's going to be exhausted, even though he's had a few days to rest. So I'm going to take the Florida Gators minus the 2.5. Yeah. And then Case, what do you like?
Yeah, well, I guess to fit with the theme of this tournament, I feel like I'm against a lot of people on both games. We'll start with Florida Auburn, as it's the first one. I'm not betting this; just I have both to win the title. I made it Florida -1.5. There's still some threes out there in Vegas, so I mean, if you're betting this game, I would say Auburn +3. I mean, you mentioned a key thing to me that I think a lot of people will gloss over. Yeah, Florida won by 9. They played a great game. They were an 11-point underdog.
Yeah.
This is a 14-point swing, not even going home to home, going home site to neutral. That is absolutely insane to me. You'll never see as big of a swing from this. I think there's huge. One of the biggest alphas in college sports is getting these injuries down because they're not like professional sports where they have to have the injury reports out there. So during the year, a lot of my bets are based on who's injured and doing that. But I feel like I'm the dissenter here, but I'm the one that I'm really kind of downplaying the Broom injury. I feel like it's like, I don't know how chronically social media you are, but it's like that meme with James Franco with the noose around his neck where he says first time. We've been doing this since December. I mean, it's like every other game. He's clearly not 100%, but it's every single game. It's like, oh, Broom looks really hurt this time, and he comes back out like you said, he has 18 and 50
every time,
like clockwork. So I could be wrong, and it could be not really my undoings. I'm not betting it. I'm going to write up and pick Auburn, but I feel like you're probably getting an extra 1.5 or 2 on the spread here because of concern about Broom, and I've just seen it too many times where he comes out and he's still just fine. I am concerned about. I shouldn't be able to say anything negative because my 2 least favorite coaches teed off in the Elite Eight, Izzo and Bruce Pearl. So if one of them won, I should not have to say anything bad about them. I do worry about it. I like Florida a lot better schematically here. I think Golden's kind of in Izzo's head. I think they had a great game plan the first time. I think I shared the quote in one of the past few weeks where Pearl said he feels like he's starting at a 10-point disadvantage to Golden. So, and I know Florida has that great backcourt. They've made all the great shots. But I just like Auburn's personnel a little bit better. But there are some factors in Florida's favor, including, in my opinion, the coaching, which might be a hot take. But and I know I'm the one that's saying it's crazy. They're the 14-point swing, but I still think Florida should probably be the favorite, but not this big a one. I also will say I think Florida's still getting a little too much credit for the SEC tournament and the end of the regular season. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say Florida's just better right now. I mean, I think they're 1-3 against the spread in the tournament. I mean, Golden was pretty disappointed with how they played against Norfolk State. Clearly could have lost to UConn or Texas Tech. Now that second half against Maryland, they looked unbelievable. But I mean, I think Auburn's covered every game, and there's been money coming in against them that they seem like no one likes it anymore, and they've really taken care of business this last week. So I don't even know if I really give Florida the recency edge that I would have given them certainly during the SEC tournament. Yeah, I feel like I'm rambling here, but I just think at the number, it's probably got to be Auburn or pass. I'd be fine with passing, but I don't know if I could get +11 in this matchup 2 months ago. Now you got to lay 2.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know, right?
You might get away with it, but long term, that's the thing I feel like you got to look out for. That just shows how much the opinion has shifted.
You couldn't get that on a teaser.
Game, yeah. In the other game, I mean, I certainly agree. I would pick Duke outright. They look like the class, the best team. And I would say take everything I say in this one with a grain of salt, because these type of teams that look so much better than everyone else, I just have had a hard time getting right in the Final Four. As much as I liked UConn, I feel like I bet against them in the Final Four games each of the last 2 years, and they just crushed everyone. That great Villanova team in 2019, I think I tried to beat with Michigan and maybe even Kansas in the semifinal game. They just killed everyone. So we really do see the best team get here and show up. That being said, there were 2 matchups that you go way down the bracket that as soon as I saw them, I was like, man, and I'm not an X's and O's, guys. I'm not really a stylistic thing, but there were 2 that really stood out to me. I loved the matchup for Texas Tech against Florida. I feel like it worked out. At least they covered the point spread, didn't get it through. The other thing I loved is I really loved the matchup for Houston against Duke. I felt like if anyone was going to beat Duke, it's Houston. I do think they'll be bothered by that physical defense, how tough they play. And I just think I trust Houston's guards as much as anyone in the country, which I know a lot of other people don't, but I think they have shot makers this year. I think they have guys that can step up in the big moments. I got to fall back on numbers at some point. I can't get this anywhere near 5. I mean, I make it like 2.5, 2.75. I get why Duke is the toast of the town, and they're clearly the best team. If you're making me pick one, I mean, they're -110 to win the national championship right now, and I think that's probably fair. Although I would just take Cooper Flagg +115 to win most outstanding player. I know everyone likes to get cute and say, oh, what about this long shot? What about Con Kniplis coming off a great game? you're gonna have to do so much to pry that award from Cooper Flag. So I think I gave out last week on the show. I think LJ Cryer 14-1 most outstanding player. I really kind of feel like the national champion comes from this game. So I think I'm going to put a really big bet on Cooper Flag plus 115 to win most outstanding player and roll with Flag and Cryer. So I think Duke ultimately pulls it out, but I think it's going to be crazy. I think it's going to come down to the end of the game. Maybe it lands right around the number with fouling and everything, but I had to fire on Houston +5. I could be falling into the usual trap of betting against the juggernaut team that seemed to have killed everyone the last 5 years, but I don't know. I mean, Houston, this is the biggest underdog they've been, I believe, in 5 years. So you just don't get these type of, and this is the best Houston team in my opinion. So I just think five's a little too much. And I did play Houston. That's the only actual bet I've made on these two games.
Couple of programming notes here. K4Wins.com. K4Wins.com is a great website. Check it out. It's free. All of our plays, and sometimes we'll check it in 3 or 4 different times. So every time you check in, you're probably going to see some different plays out there. Check it out. Of course, we'll have all your plays for the Final Four and the national championship game from the Alamo Dome coming up on Monday as well. So check it out. You can subscribe and get after it. K4Wins.com. Also, thanks to our good friend Kip Keefer, we have just signed a brand new deal for the starting lineup, which of course includes Case Kiefer, and Kai Gregory makes an honorary position member. He comes by every once in a while, and
he needs to come by more often.
Gives us a 9-0 every once in a while. We love that. From Southern Precision Staffing, does fantastic work. We love him. But we are signed up for another year. The starting lineup on ABC 3340 local show. If you're sitting outside our local area here, you can go to our YouTube channel. Just look up the starting lineup with Kiefer and Kurre, and you can watch our TV shows every week. Try to watch the thing live because obviously it's very topical, and we have our plays. Cincinnati Reds 1-0.
3 straight losses.
1-0. 3 times. I had to find out the last time that happened was the Philadelphia Phillies in 1960. It's only happened 4 other times, and those were all over 100 years ago. And I got the over wins 20, I think is 81.5, right? When Terry Francona took over the position. The Reds just need a good coach. When Dusty Baker's there, when they have good coaching, they go to playoffs. When they don't, they suck. It's always a farm league team. Joey Votto's finally gone, thank goodness, but they got some great young talent in there, including, of course, the kid that can do it all, the Willie Mays of our time. I love that kid. But just amazing that they lost 1-0, 1-0. There's no reason why they can't do a 4th time. I know Kai's been all over Major League Baseball, which got started in earnest about a week and a half ago. But what's your thoughts on Major League Baseball so far, and how have some of the lines changed when you've seen some of that stuff, Kai, as the season played out? And I know we've got to mention the Braves.
Oh, please.
This is a baseball team that is just trying to find itself. I know they played the Padres, and I know they played the Dodgers, and I realize that's really tough. Can't really tell how good a team is this early in a baseball season. Despite that fact, they should not be in the position they're in right now. But Kai, take it away, bro.
No, I mean, you're 7 games in, and yeah, I mean, it's hilarious. Living in Alabama, you have all the bandwagon jumpers that have become Braves fans, same ones that became Alabama fans when they started winning, and now all these people are all over the radio, and you see it on social media, and just dogging the Braves and what's wrong and all this stuff. Well, you played 2 of the best teams in baseball at their place. Is one. You did it without your best player, with Acuna being out. Now you're coming home and Profar's out for 80 games. Also, I mean, the Braves they're in a little bit of disarray, but they're going to get back and they'll be fine. But I mean, because you're not going to be able to look at the standings I'm sitting here looking at very often, since 1980, and look in the National League East and see the Braves at the bottom. It just hasn't happened. And so, yeah, they're there right now. The Phillies number 1, but we were talking about it before we even came on. If I'm in the AL East, I'm really mad that I'm not in the AL Central, because if I'm any team in the AL East right now, I'm number 1 in the AL Central. Even my beloved Red Sox, who are 3-4, would be number 1 there. The Pirates have already gone around and made roster moves after 7 games and pulled up AAA players and sent players down. That came out last night and this morning. And it's just crazy. Especially for the Pirates, who probably have one of what will become, I think, one of the best pitchers in baseball to come. I mean, I really like the Skeens kid. I think he's very good, but he's also going to go through the sophomore slump to some degree this year. I think people are going to adjust to him and go from there. Everybody's overreacting to, Aaron Judge is going to have 8,000 RBIs this year because he had a 3 home run game. Well, I might be able to hit 3 home runs in Yankee Stadium. I mean, to the short ports that he's hitting to, not that big a deal.
All right, real quick, are you putting anything into the bats at all?
The torpedo
Are we
bats.
putting anything into the
No.
torpedo bats? I mean,
No.
everyone's subscribing to it, and of course, Judge is not using it. He's like, I don't need it. I got 3 home runs. I'm just curious because everyone talked about the baseball for years. Are we going to have anything?
I don't. And then the teams that are using teams that aren't, like you said, Judge, who hits 3 home runs in one game, he didn't use one. He doesn't need it. I mean, he can. I mean, he is one of the guys you see just do like this and knock the ball out. But like we talked about, I love some of the adjusted totals we were talking about before we went on. I would come back right now, and if I had bet the Cincinnati Reds over, I would look at these first 3 games of the season and go, you know what? It might not be a bad idea to go look at that 3 games it was adjusted down to 78.5 and take that under now. We jumped on the Red Sox early or before the season for one of our overs, and I think they came off just fine off their first road trip. Now they're back at home for a little while, and the Yankees look good. The AL East is going to be a great division to watch, as is the AL West. Watching the Dodgers and the Padres, I mean, those 2 lineups are just stacked. And the Dodgers, they're undefeated. In 6 of their games, either Mookie or Freeman has been out, and in 3 of them, both of them.
Yeah.
Well, now Freeman's out longer because he slipped in the shower yesterday, and now he's on the disabled list. So that's not a good thing. But the Padres, I tell you, after understanding the potential of Fernando Tatis Jr., but watching him 4 straight games, the guy looks like he's got his head on straight finally. The guy can hit up a storm, and man, is this guy fast. This is a dynamic player. Fernando Tatis, I don't know what his number is, Case, for MVP this year, but after seeing that first weekend's games, if he can do that over a whole season, this guy is just in another class in terms of his total skill set of anybody else I've seen in a number of years.
Case, you got anything you want to add to that?
No, you guys did a good job. I agree. I don't know. It's a hard baseball. It's just all big picture. But yeah, the AL East looks extremely tough. We kind of knew it was. I mean, you can just put these teams in a hat and draw ones. They all look so evenly matched. All 5 of them. I don't put much into the torpedo bats either. I got to admit, when it first happened, it did make my eyes pop up. Like, I have all super anti-Yankees position for me this year. I think I'm on Yankees under, Red Sox to win the division. I think I have Toronto over. I was tempted to take a big price on Yankees not to miss the playoffs. Like, you didn't tell me they had this. And then you wait and you read the stories a couple of days. I mean, there's been guys that have been using them since 2019. I know everyone was freaking out because they had all these home runs. But like you said, I think it's only Volpe, Jazz, and Goldschmidt that had the home runs that used them. And that was a lot of them, but Aaron Judge didn't have it. Your guy, Ellie De La Cruz, is using the torpedo bat. A lot of guys using them and not getting the same results. So I do think ultimately it's much ado about nothing. And that breakout was more had to do with the Brewers pitching staff being down. And like Kai said, just the park dimensions at Yankee Stadium. So I'm not putting a whole lot into that. I would throw in the NL West too. I'm kind of the opposite on the Padres. I'm still in a little bit of wait and see mode. I know how great they've looked to start the season. I was so high on them last year. I got that series with the Dodgers where they blew the game late. That still kills me because I had a huge price on them to win the World Series this year, and they still have a really good roster, but they have this weird sale thing going on with the owner, where it's the owner died. It's the fight between his wife and his brother who's going to control the team. Because of that, they're not going to make any moves during the year, which I know doesn't matter right now. I'm not shocked they're getting off to this big start, but as soon as someone gets injured, or they need some reinforcements on the bullpen, they're not going to add anything. And I feel like the rest of the NL West is going for it, not only including the Dodgers, who look like one of the best teams we've seen in our lifetime, at the Diamondbacks. I know our team I'm a little down on compared to everyone else, but they're super trendy. They made a lot of offseason moves that people like. And I actually love the Giants. I've been betting the Giants like every day. They're 5-1 right now, and I feel like no one's even talking about them because of with the Padres and the Dodgers. So the NL West is going to be fun. To answer Kip questions, Tatis is 8-1, and yeah, he is a ridiculous talent. I'm not really towing into the NL MVP market much just because of the Ohtani specter. It's just, especially if this guy ends up pitching again, it's just so hard to pry it from him. And I was a little, I know Tatis has been awesome to start. I was a little down on him coming into the season. If you just look at his, StatCast numbers, like the exit velocity and stuff after the PED suspension, everything dropped off a ton. So I still want to see him do it for a little bit longer without whatever he was taking before. So despite how they started, I'm a little bit of a sell on the Padres. But yeah, the NL West is going to be great. And I would say the Giants are the team that the team to watch that no one's talking about. You can still probably get a big plus money to make the playoffs at least. I bet them 50-1 to win the division actually, but going into the year. I don't think that's going to cash. The Dodgers look even better than I thought, but I do think they're a little bit better than people give them credit for. Really smart front office, great pitching staff, and a lineup that's actually hitting pretty well right now too.
Let me throw in one caveat, Tony.
Absolutely, yes.
The Dodgers, as good as they look and as many runs as they can score, that series against the Braves, if you watched all three of those games, the Dodgers play terrible defense. The Dodgers made some really bonehead errors. Max Muncy had 2 throwing errors that gave the Braves a 5-0 lead in the last game. Betts has booted a couple balls at second base. I just don't know defensively if they're really an elite team. I think they've got a couple guys playing out of position, and so there is one asterisk on the Dodger sparkling resume that they might find a way to lose some games. They've got too much talent and too much payroll. Every guy that when Glasnow started, the former Tampa Bay pitcher there, and I didn't even realize and I remember they got him last year, but I mean they've just got a stockpile of pitchers. When they start getting guys back, the team is ridiculous with that payroll. And does this mean, Case, I need to cancel my order for your son, King, my grandson? I already got his torpedo bat ordered so he can dominate T-ball.
I mean, I'm sure it helps a little bit, but I think it's a case by case. Maybe it would fit with him. Yeah, and I will say, I'll just add to Kip. I agree with what Kip said, and the Dodgers, as good as they are, they shouldn't be 8-0. If you've watched all these games, they've found crazy ways.
So fortunate.
The Tiger series too. I mean, they've won a lot of coin flips. I still think they're by far the likeliest winner. They're going to win the most games, but they might be getting a little bit too much praise because in reality, they're probably more like a 6-2 team right now, masquerading as 8-0.
K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. Gentlemen, I love you guys. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. Enjoy March Madness, Major League Baseball, and everything else that's going on. We'll catch up next week. Thank you, sirs.
Thanks, fellas. Happy birthday to Clayton Kiefer, Case's younger brother, my son, our engineer, and guy who makes all this happen for me, technically. 33 today.
33 years old. Oh, you're just a baby.
Young baby.
Just a baby. I'm old enough to be his dad. Jeez Louise.
Me too.
I'm gonna go cry for the rest of the weekend. All right, guys. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.